In a world full of uncertainties and unknowns, what truly sets us apart is not just our strength or our luck, but it's our unwavering belief in ourselves and that ability and determination to keep on moving, even when the path ahead is blurred. Because in this world full of shifting sands, where certainty is a luxury and change is the only constant, survival isn't just about navigating the storms, but about dancing in the rain. So either you're grappling with life's fragile moments or midlife crisis or sudden layoffs, this podcast is for you. So hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Renaissance with Swati. And today I have with me Manish Advani, who is the founder and CEO of MIMO Potentio. He's also known as the Coconut Man of India. He's a multiple times TEDx speaker, a business leader, and a leadership coach. Hello, Manish. How are you?
Doing very good. How have you been?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So, Manish, would you like to tell more about yourself?
Firstly, thank you so much for the kind words of your introduction. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be with you on this show this morning. I would like to, introduce myself by saying, I began my career at the age of 16. So while I was in college, I mean, it was due to financial pressure and the financial challenges which my family was faced with. So while I was attending college, I was into full-time internship. And you
Okay.
can call it those days, we didn't have culture of internship the way it's so
Mhm.
prominent these days. But that was kind of a full-time job because we had morning college, and after college I would be going to work, and I would end up home like it was a 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. schedule, which I was following. And then my first job involved working as an audit assistant. From audit, I moved into sales. It was a very drastic shift. And it was, I mean, in the initial days of career, it was purely because of money. I mean, you chase, I mean, especially if you're coming from a family which is struggling financially, so money becomes the top priority. Sales job, I was getting double. So I thought, I'll make a shift. It wasn't that easy, but I learned on the go. And it was in a retail store. I still remember it was a church gate by the name of Mex, MEXX, the company which was based out of Holland. And the reason for, introducing myself with, the different careers I've been through. So from audit assistant taught me, paying attention to details, which makes a big difference in one's journey of life. When I went to sales job, I learned one of the first lessons is cut and paste makes you waste. And this is one of my seniors who taught me this lesson because what I would do in that sales job was, show everything to every customer who would walk in. And after the customer walked out, I had like heaps of clothes which were lying there and I had to take, all those clothes. And one of my seniors, he had kind of, I would say, he was more compassionate towards me, kind towards me. He said, don't follow this method. You'll go crazy. Instead, you ask questions to people. And even by the looks of the person who's walking in, you can make out, what are the clothes which will go well on this person. And instead of many a times they're confused, you actually give them options, how about trying this, trying this. So that way you will be actually directing them to purchase and also you won't be confused the hell out of them. And from there, the third job, involved, I got a break in an IT startup way
Okay.
back in 1996. It was into dot com, 95 actually. 95, 96. 96 is when, I mean, we had the privilege of working on timesofIndia.com, multiple projects which had come their way in that startup. And so that was interesting. That actually led me to a career shift from audit to sales to a very different field, which was technology, IT. And from there, I got an opportunity to, study further through my college. It sent me as a transfer student in the United States of America. So I ended up in New Jersey Institute of Technology, from where I got my management degree. And while I was there, I had the privilege of working on assignment of U.S. Department of Transportation, which was part of U.S. government. My task was to connect 21 counties in the state of New Jersey by building a decision support system which would actually give data. So in those days, we talked about data and big data and those data science, not in terms which are used today, but simplifying life. So of stakeholders who were representing different counties which were part of the state of New Jersey. Unlike here, we have districts, there we have counties. So that was an interesting project I worked. Then after that, I had the privilege of working on, migration project Y2K, and a lot of companies wanted to migrate applications, move their legacy applications to the new MSI technology, simplifying those applications, and also the functionality and a lot of different things, user interfaces and many of those things. And after that, I mean, unfortunately, faced with 911. That's something, 911 had a huge impact, one on people who were there, who were in World Trade Center, they lost their lives. But there were many who were not there, who lost their livelihood. And I happened to be one of them. And that was the first time I experienced what is pink slip. They called it pink
Okay.
slip.
Okay.
In crude language, it layoff. So that layoff actually, kind of, I mean, for a person like me, especially if you are on H1B1 visa working in United States, what it means is either you continue there as an illegal immigrant. We see what's happening with illegal immigrants these days. They're in the news almost every single day. And I had that option. Another option is you voluntarily go back to your country. So I decided to go with option two rather than, continuing as an illegal immigrant and putting my name at risk, even my country's name at risk, country's brand at risk. So moved back, did some freelancing, used to get some projects from the West, get it executed in India, worked for a few years, and then from here I moved to Canada, where I had the privilege of, working with Microsoft in their Canadian headquarters. And there also it was all about data. It's, how we can enhance data to an extent that we are able to improve customer and partner experience. I worked on multiple projects, multiple assignments, won Microsoft President's Award for improving customer, playing a role in improving customer and partner experience. To dedication to data award, to multiple things which came my way. And thereafter, I moved back to India, where I had the privilege of working for the Mahindra Group company for almost 12 years. 12 years, that's the longest I've ever spent with any company in my entire career. And there we had the privilege of working on different roles. Initially started as consultant, then started heading marketing, then started heading public relations, and started heading change management, which is close to my heart, which continues to be close to my heart even till date. So from Mahindra, then I moved, had a short stint with Schindler, and then I decided to embark on my own journey of entrepreneurship. And
That's wonderful. Yeah. So, I mean, starting from an audit assistant to sales to a corporate journey, and then, starting something of your own, how easy or difficult it was.
when starting something on, I mean, it sounds very easy. Everybody's talking about, I mean, these days, earlier when we used to speak in and do sessions in different colleges, motivational sessions, and share our experience. I mean, often when I ask the question, how many of you, I mean, what would you like to do in the future? And the most common answer was that I would, prefer getting a job in XYZ company. And they had their list of companies in which they aspired to get jobs. However, now if you go, I mean, many a times, college, one of the things which is most common, or the answer which is most common, is I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, true. That is a shift in mind that has happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't
Yeah.
realize entrepreneurship is not a piece of cake. You have to be ready for a lot of uncertainties. You have to be ready up for a lot of challenges. You have to get out of the comfort zone. Unlike, what the way I would say we, at times get pampered in the corporate world. Now, if you get
Mhm.
obsessed with those comforts, like, I mean, if I had to travel to some city, if I had to travel to some place for work, especially work related travel, I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was, send a mail to travel desk. I mean, and then your boss approves it. Then at what price they book the
Mhm.
tickets, which hotel or guest house they book, which car they
Right.
book, that all is their headache. It's not your headache. So from the time you depart from your city and the time you
Mhm.
return back to your home, everything's well taken care of. Now, when you move on your own, when you are in your own business, you have to think of every penny which you're spending
So true.
and the ROI which you'll be getting in return, because it's your hard-earned savings you're playing with. So it's not an easy shift here. I mean, I remember, I mean, one instance, I had to travel to South. Bangalore, and it was November, I believe, 2021. And one meeting had got scheduled with the managing director of one of the leading companies. While it was a very good feeling that I've got a meeting and he's willing to, hear me out. In the initial days of entrepreneurship, even one meeting is close to your heart. So when you are with a brand like Mahindra, and I had also had the privilege of working for Jaguar, Land Rover, and Microsoft, and the brand itself does most of the work, or the most of the talking. When you are on your own, you don't have that backing of a brand. So that in
True.
those days, even that one meeting, it's a big thing. So now that one meeting came, it also came with a problem. Now the problem is at that point of time, November 21, it's just few days after Diwali. The ticket prices were at the peak. I mean, the return ticket Mumbai Bangalore was about 25,000. I could have made a trip to Dubai and come back, including paying for visa and other things. So now I'm like 25,000 one meeting, 25. So that, I mean, if I was working in a big brand, I wouldn't even have thought of this. Challenges like this to many other challenges, many a times, although you have a backing of an experience, this is of experienced person getting into entrepreneurship. I don't know what happens with somebody who doesn't have experience. With an experienced person, then you are getting with challenge. As your company worked with any other company. Arey boss, but I'm coming with 20 plus experience. I've done all kinds of things. So there's a lot of different struggles, different. And I won't say struggles. I mean, I took it as an adventure. That's the reason I've been able to come this far. I mean, 5 years being on your own itself is, to me, it's a success, because if you are able to manage these many years, then it's a lot easier now to continue upward.
So why MIMO Potentio? And why did you choose to go into this field? And what exactly is MIMO Potentio?
So that's a very good question. I mean, when I was in the corporate world, many a times when you are in a particular environment, you are actually continuing, as part of the furniture, as part of the system. But when you get out of the system, you realize, especially if you reflect, you start thinking, what could have been better? So I started thinking about problems which people face in the corporate world, problems which I face, but I still continue working and living with those problems. Sometimes people are okay to live with those problems, but not realizing those problems come at a huge cost. Nowadays, we see, I mean, many CXOs. I mean, you read in the news, I mean, so and so, age 46, he was a CEO of a company, he passed away. Recently, I read in the news, I think one of the CEOs ended up in a hospital. He got an heart attack while he was working in his organization. Some get panic attacks, some get different
Mhm.
attacks. So I've been thinking, I mean, in spite of, being in that CXO position, if you're not happy, if you don't have a smile on your face, forget about rank and file which reports to them. The rank and file also, that whole entire thing percolates down the line in the organization. And if you read multiple surveys, if you realize, I mean, you will come to conclusion, 99% employees, in spite of working or getting an opportunity to work with the best of the brands in the universe, are not happy. So I
Okay.
had this question mark, I had this problem ahead of me, and I felt I want to solve this problem. So MIMO came from, mindful inside, mindful outside, to achieve full potentials. I realized, people are too much outward focused. Many a times we fear, I mean, many a times in COVID also, some people losing their jobs, they're too much outward focused. I said, you lost your job, it's okay, you'll get it in some course of time. As long as you're able to survive for a few months, you should be worried about 3, 4, 6 months survival. I mean, once you're taken care of, things will open up. It's not going to be, you are never going to be, a train never ends up being in tunnel forever. There's also the other side which you see, and you pass through, even this shall pass. But now their biggest worry at that point of time is, what will people say? I don't have a job. What will people say? My bank took away my car. I'm unable to pay the EMI. So it was a lot of
Okay.
outward focus instead of diving inside within ourselves. So I felt, people are mindful, especially of their thoughts, because your thoughts lead to actions. The words which
True.
are also based on the thought process. If they are mindful of their thoughts, and what should follow next is mindful of their action. That should, reflect in actions also. And then they should be mindful of the vocabulary they are using. And
Okay.
internally, if they focus and rework on themselves, then they'll be mindful outside with the surroundings, in the environment they are operating. And with that, they'll be able to achieve full potential.
So basically, being mindful of what you think and then being mindful of what you do so that you can
Yes.
achieve your full potential. That is what MIMO Potentio is.
Yes. So it's basically reworking, helping people rework on their mindset, their actions, and their vocabulary. Not from words that, oh, you have, many things, vocabulary they confuse with the soft skills and the softer element. Here, the
Mm.
vocabulary is about the attitude in communication.
Okay,
Are you communicating before listening or after listening? Are you incorporating humility in your journey? Are you acknowledging others? Are you mindful or sensitive towards others? Are you personalizing relationships with others? So there are multiple things which play a big role in one's journey, and when people miss out on these finer details, say they have
Mhm.
struggles and challenges of different kind which come their way.
So then, as part of MIMO Potentio, what does all your organization do?
So, as part of MIMO Potential, our organization actually, based on four-level framework, we assist organizations to focus on exponential growth. Usually, organizations are focused on incremental growth, or now they're talking about survival. I mean, we say, if you think about survival, if you think about a minor incremental growth, you will only achieve that. But if you think
True.
about exponential growth, how I can go there, how I can do this, how I can make this happen, then you'll start working towards it. Even if you don't achieve that, you will, if you achieve one level below, but at least you won't get stuck in the trap of sustaining the numbers what you have been able to achieve in the previous year. Now that requires
Mhm.
something which is called unconventional thinking. So we actually promote the culture of unconventional thinking. We believe that a straight line or a straight line upwards can have a huge impact. I mean, we always believe that it work with a jump, don't go with a straight line kind of approach. So straight, even if the ECG is straight line, it indicates something. So that unconventional thinking, I mean, in Hindi, they say, I mean, तेरा सोचिए तेरा बनिए तेरा कीजिए, but that by that it doesn't mean कि कुछ गलत कीजिए. Do something
Mhm.
which is right, which is meaningful, but at the same time you are unconventional so that you can stand out in the marketplace, which is flooded with many individuals like you in the industry.
Right. You said don't go on a straight line, but jump ahead. So how to jump ahead?
So jumping ahead involves unconventional thinking, doing something, coming up with unique, coming up something, breaking the pattern, challenging the status quo, which many people don't challenge. I mean, I've seen people when they join new organization, they adapt to the culture of the new organization. They adapt to the processes laid down in the new organization. They adapt to the way of working in the new organization. Now they don't realize here there is an opportunity. You are coming with an outside mindset. Now you're able to see this organization from a different lens, especially if you are joining as a new employee or a new person in the organization. So instead of adapting straight away, start questioning under what context and pretext this particular process was laid, under what context and pretext this company operates. And there could be
Okay.
some things which they're ignoring, which might have a huge impact on them in the years to come.
So
And
when
then
we
it
were talking earlier, you said that, even when we do a high jump, we have to go 2 steps behind so that we can jump ahead. So I think that is what you want.
Yes, and then what happens is, for that you have to take out some time. Take out some time to reflect. Here, what happens in the corporate world? Usually, people are continuously going from point A to B, point B to C, point C to D without pressing the pause button. I mean, imagine a tape recorder. I mean, earlier days we had a tape recorder with play, pause, rewind, forward, and stop button. If somebody plays a continuous button without the stop and rewind and forward and the other button, and then that plays and the person will get headache.
Of course, you will
Yes.
feel monotonous at the end
Yeah.
of the day if you're just following that loop every year on year on year. You'll just be monotonous and not moving ahead.
The monotony, press the rewind button to see how you can bring in the new flavor or variegatedness in what you're doing. And then that can happen when you start challenging yourself. The change begins with challenge. I think initially you mentioned, right? Change is constant.
Yeah.
Wish things could be certain, but we live in an uncertain world. So for change, and many people have difficulty embracing change. And the best way to embrace change is to see how you can challenge yourself, challenge the existing things around you.
Right, right. So you also mentioned that you challenged the typical SWOT analysis that every organization does, right?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, this was, I mean, I would say the analysis which, I mean, this is something which we learned from Captain Raghuraman. I don't know if you've heard of him. It's one of the famous orators in the country and renowned leader. So he taught us to challenge different things. So when I was had the privilege of working closely with him in the Mahindra Group, he challenged, one of the things which many organizations were doing, which was information security audits. And he
Mhm.
challenged, saying that, the moment you announce the word audit, people in the organization dress up as much as possible. They cover up the things which they don't want to come in limelight. And that covering up is done mainly because of the personal interest to safeguard personal career, safeguard, personal growth. But in reality, that is detrimental to the organization's growth because the picture which you're portraying is not the reality, and the reports which come out of because of the picture which you've shown are basically false reports which get presented in the boardroom. And eventually, these reports could have a huge financial impact and the impact on the brand of the organization. Now, looking at this, we came up with a service which was discovery assessment, in which the CEO knowing about this, the leaders, a team of few leaders moves in the organization secretly to find out what the gaps which are existing. Going back, I think these days there are a lot of things which are every year people talking about Ayodhya, Jai Shri Ram, and other things.
Mhm.
If you go back, I think I have read somewhere in the days of Ramayana, also the king would actually secretly disguise himself and move around the citizens to see what citizens are thinking, what are the challenges they are going through. So from that perspective, we would become the ears and the eyes of the CEO, and we'll move around. A CEO cannot move around, disguise himself. It's not going to be a piece of cake, especially in the
Yeah.
digital age of earlier. They would, have a blanket wrapped around them, and this time, I mean, if you do that, people will say, "Thoda pagal hai." So we would become the ears and eyes of the CEO and show him the real picture, show him the mirror. Boss, you might be thinking the audit report says one thing, but the reality is far different than what you are seeing.
So, what is the difference between a typical leadership coach and what you do as part of, conducting sessions in different organizations?
So I would say, I mean, I don't want to comment on what other coaches are doing or the leadership coaches are doing here. I would say we are not into as such coaching is something, but we are more into facilitating or, creating certain environment. It has a huge impact. Like I take people on experiential visits. I make them meet, usually, make them interview leaders the way journalists interview leaders. So with that what happens is, in coaching and many a times what happens is it's like a one person relationship, but here you are actually, throwing them in the pool so that they can learn
Okay.
to swim, and throwing them in the pool of inspiration so they can absorb as much as inspiration as possible from different sources. Because many a times it's when you are working with group of people, it's very difficult to customize to the T.
So, you work with various different MNCs.
What we do is we usually MNCs to mid-sized companies to large organizations. So we basically, I mean, we chase problems and we love problems. So from a perspective of, trying to see how we can, assist individuals and leaders in sailing through those problems. Now, to address those problems, we initially do something called the wolf assessment. So worries, obsessions, limitations, and fear. The wolf is something which is prominent in every individual in different forms. It impacts the individual in different stages of life. That assessment, we identify the problems which are specific to that individual. Now, to address this problem, I mean, we customize the next level of engagement in such a way the problems get addressed. And we
Okay.
equip them in such a way that they solve their problem.
Okay.
So we only facilitate in a way that they are able to solve their problems with the certain frameworks which we have built. Now with the wolf framework, people can solve their problems. Like what are those obsessions which are creating limitation and fear like situations in their life? While we analyze a lot of data in the world we live in, very rarely people analyze their worries. And every individual goes through 40, 50,000 thoughts every single day. I'm not saying you analyze all the 50,000 thoughts because you all 50,000 you don't carry, but there are few which continue with you on day-to-day basis, which actually take up your time, back of the mind, they keep playing, they keep dancing. Like we have the dancers dancing in IPL matches, cheerleaders. So these worries keep dancing in our head, and then they take up our energy, take up our time. And instead of, getting that clutter out of head, we decide to continue with it. So first thing is we first ensure that the clutter is gone, or they have learned to deal with the clutter which is in the head. And once they are able to deal with the clutter in the head, then their actions, can get refined, and they can reinvent themselves, and they can rework on their actions and evolve further in their journey.
Okay. So you choose an organization first and then you focus on the individuals.
Organization first, in the sense, organization is experiencing problem. If organization first is from the context, if this organization goes down, along with it, all the individuals who are dependent on this organization will also get affected. If an organization of 500 people, if it's not performing, if it's going down, the revenue has gone down by 20%,
Mhm.
top line,
Mhm.
bottom line, everything's got hit straight away. And the first thing usually organization does is, lay off 10% people, 20% people. So when the organization, problems are taken care of, automatically employees are taken care of. And with the organization grows, more jobs get generated. Demographic dividend won't turn into a liability.
Right. You also mentioned when we discussed earlier that, we are obsessed by our strengths, and sometimes it's our strengths which becomes the biggest obstacle.
Yes, and that is true. What happens is, typically every organization does something called SWOT analysis. And in SWOT, they focus on strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. But the main focus is usually on the other three: weakness, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, you always think, this is something I already have. I'm not worried about it. But many don't realize that your today's strength could be your tomorrow's biggest weakness, especially in the
Okay.
fast changing, disruptive world. Imagine you have a skill, you are very good at that particular skill, and tomorrow that skill is not required. Imagine somebody who's in the business of writing letters. The CEO is dictating letters. I mean, you write this to XYZ person,
Mhm.
write this to. And the chat GPT does everything what you have been used to doing. That's been your biggest strength. Now, obsessed with it, that you are indispensable. So my only answer is, you are being proven wrong in the world of AI. So better you
True.
change, otherwise you will be changed.
Keep on evolving.
Yeah, keep on evolving, keep on learning new things, keep on bringing in the new flavors, variegatedness in your journey of life. Uh, so otherwise, I mean, it's only time which will define your growth. And many a times people felt, the admin jobs or certain jobs, which are the desk jobs, are the most secure jobs, peaceful jobs. Now with chat GPTs and all, they are
Mm.
also shaking this particular community apart.
Understood. And we truly do not know in the next 20 years will how many of these jobs will actually remain, or what would be the new era of work after 20 years.
Yeah,
That's
then
true.
that's the reason it's important that people develop right side thinking. That's the reason it's important that people, go from conventional to unconventional. And the more they are unconventional in their way of working, the better chances they will have of, continuing and sailing through some of the worst challenges which might come in their way in times to come.
So, you also mentioned about the what else mindset. What exactly does a what else mindset means?
So what else mindset involves, how to in here. So what else something which we always do in our day to day life, right?
Mm.
If somebody is traveling by train regularly, if trains get cancelled or something happens on the track, I mean, person will think, what else can I do to get to my destination? Right? I mean, you might take the bus, or you might carpool, or you might take some other use. So, but the what else is something which is part of everyone's life. But here it's the what else is about strategic mindset. Moving from the tactical mindset of doing things. Tactically, we do what else, especially when we are stuck in a particular system. But in the strategic mindset is, how I can multiply the outcomes. In Hindi, there is a saying, "Ek tir se do nishan." Can I hit ek tir se teen nishan or char nishan?
ओके ओके एक तीर से चार निशान
Yeah.
पर कैसे कर सकते हैं वो एक तीर से चार निशान कैसे इज इट
Like, I mean,
पॉसिबल
one of the assignments I worked on is the assignment which I had the privilege of working on was with the ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization. And ISRO, they were faced with a problem statement that fishermen of India are getting caught in the deep sea. Sometimes they end up in jails of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, or any other country. Then the Indian diplomats have to negotiate to get them back. So they created a device called Navic, using which they send alerts to fishermen. Now, if you go further, you might end up in one of the jails. Now, from a problem statement perspective, they've already solved the problem. Is there any ROI on this? Is no, right? Is there any ROI which, of terms of financials which government is getting? Answer is no, they're not getting any ROI. But with the what else mindset, they went deeper into the life cycle of a fisherman. What do fishermen do throughout the day? How they go about their journey? And then they realize fishermen spend about 8-10 hours in the deep sea. And in those 10 hours, then whatever fishes they are able to catch, they catch and they come back. And they go to different places in the sea to find fishes. And sometimes they wait for hours. So with Navic, they also start tracking the chlorophyll belts in the sea. Chlorophyll is where you get maximum fishes, because fishes, that's food for fishes. Now, they also send alerts for where are these chlorophyll belts in the sea, and you go there, you will get maximum fishes there. So this is ek tir se do nishan. The second nishan is you are getting maximum fishes. Third nishan is you'll get these fishes in less time. Fourth nishan is India saves about 20,000 crores in fuel every year because of this particular additional feature.
Okay.
Outcomes, how you are, achieving 3, 4, 5 outcomes with that one particular thing. And if more and more people work with this mindset, then you're maximizing the ROI on the time or the limited time you're gifted with.
That's nice. Talking about, you said unconventional path. People who take unconventional path are the ones who will succeed in the world coming. So, what are those unconventional things a person can do?
See, one of the things, which I leveraged on is for which I am known as the coconut man of India. I leverage on the coconut shells for a self-transformation exercise, wherein we
Okay.
engage people. See, tender coconut, the green one which we consume. And this is not for the chutney, but for a day-to-day this thing. There are 3 sides to the coconut. So we engage people in a way that, on the first side, you write down the problem statement. Second side, you have to come up with a solution. Third side, what is the outcome you are achieving? So this is more of a creative coconuts engagement. And the end goal of this is when you can transform, and they have to do it with creative stuff. There has to be no text, because there's so much used to PowerPoint. The point all everything gets listed in those PowerPoints. And then many a times when you sit through those boring presentations, you feel when everything's on the screen, then why are you presenting? I can read on my own. So here the whole thing is you are presenting it artistically. The picture speaks 1,000 words. So here we achieve 2 things. One is we ignite the creative artist and the storyteller, which is within every individual. And these 2 things, art and stories, are the pillar of design thinking. The world's talking about design thinking. One is that. Second is that if you can transform a discarded coconut shell, which is nothing but garbage, what's stopping you from transforming yourself? So they come up with a lot of creative stuff, and the value of coconut, which is nothing, which is garbage, moves. And we ask that, if you have to sell this to the market, how much will you get? They say $40, $50, $80, $100. So the whole purpose is if you can multiply the value of something which was 0 to 100, why you can multiply your value. So it's a very unconventional exercise. And, after this exercise, people feel this is the first step I took in sustainability. It was therapeutic. I didn't realize you can relieve so much stress by working on a coconut which has no value as such. So doing things. And so this is one of those unconventional things. In another case, I've taken people on a learning trek, whereby we start the trek in the darkness early in the morning hours. And they go through different challenges which we create on the way. And then we talk about then when it culminates in experiencing one of the most beautiful sunrises. And the whole lesson in this is that, to experience beautiful sunrise every day at your day-to-day, in your workplace on day-to-day basis, there are certain things which you need to address. Otherwise, you will continue living with it. Continue living in darkness. So a lot of those unconventional things we bring in, which actually stay with people, which people share with others, with at least 7, 8 people whom they meet, that I, experienced this something which was unconventional. And by doing so, when they share with others, the retention and subconsciously it gets registered within their minds. And once that gets registered, it's a lot easier for them to put it in practice.
Right. So you also mentioned that, whenever we enter a new organization, we should not just, go by the flow. We should question. We should, question and see why it is happening, why, how, when, where, what, all these questions we should ask. So when we join a new organization, how to create a brand for yourself, not only for an employee, but for example, when you started on your own journey as an entrepreneur, how did you create a brand for yourself? Because that is very, very relevant in this world right now. Creating your own brand. It is very important.
Yes. So I started asking questions to the end leaders, whoever I was meeting. One of the questions I remember was, how many continuous learners you have in your organization? And I
Okay.
would get a blank face in front of me.
Mhm.
And then the whole purpose behind this was that if people are not into continuous learning, and then we would also talk about the next question which follows is, okay, somebody said we have only few people who are into continuous learning. And the next question followed, how about development? How much of that learning transforms into development? So if it is not transforming, are you tracking that development? Are you seeing that change? Are you seeing the ROI coming your way? If not, then L&D is nothing but a tick tick sick approach. You are having a tick mark. So we did this, we did 10
Great.
hours of learning, attended this session, we did seven Kavi, we did 7 habits, but how many habits,
Mhm.
what kind of change was there? So those are the questions. We asked a question, yes, you have diversity, but are you inclusive? Is equity in place? And then one of the basic questions was, okay, how is your hiring process? From which are the places you hire the new joinees? And the most common answers are, we go to XYZ college, we go to B schools, we go to A schools, and it was this thing. And then we would give, most of the big leaders renowned leaders in the country have come from schools which many people they haven't even heard of. So Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, for example, comes from a small town in Rameshwaram. From where he comes to where he was, and the missile man of India to the president of India, which is a big position. So are these corporates have even heard of the college which he attended? Have they even been to hire somebody from that college? Who knows? They might get the next Abdul Kalam ji from there. So these are the questions to ponder upon, and then sometimes people would give excuses, oh, it's not possible to go through so many places, and but with the AI-based recruitment systems, it's possible. And secondly, you talk about equal opportunity employment. Here, the equal opportunity employment comes in place, diversity, inclusion, equity comes in place. So many
Mhm.
different things come in place, and when you are actually harnessing on the diverse, and if you are more inclusive in nature, the reality is a lot of things will change for good within your organization. So a lot of these questions we ask, does your organization has different silos in the organization? While you're talking about collaborative spirit, we want to promote that. How are you breaking the silos? How are you breaking the silo culture within the organization? How many arrogant leaders you have in the organization? We have heard pride comes before fall. But are you even tracking the number of arrogant people? Now, there could be
Okay.
possibility your best salesperson, he's very good at getting numbers. At the same time, he's super arrogant. How do you deal with it? And if you don't deal with it, it could have its repercussions.
True.
So when you ask questions which others don't ask, then people start thinking, boss, I never thought about it. And then they start talking to you, they start giving you some kind of equity. And then that's when you present, by the way, I have this solution which can help you address some of these problems. And by addressing these problems, you will evolve as a socially responsible brand in the country which you are operating.
Talking about, all these problems that anyone can face in corporate, the biggest problem is layoffs in the current scenario with the current
Mhm.
market. And like you said, that you have also faced that phase once or twice in your life. So how is it? How to handle layoffs? How to navigate through that zone, the layoff
One
zone?
is that a layoff is a responsibility. There is a responsibility on both organization as well as individual. In COVID, we saw certain organizations they went overboard in hiring. They because I think they had some kind of FOMO. And as they moved further, they realized, oh my God, we are not getting the projects which we had envisioned. Now let us lay off. So this is not gudda guddi ka khel. I mean, here you are playing with people's lives. You're playing with careers. I mean, having there's an onus on organizations. Reputation also, it has an impact when they fire a lot of people. They get flashed in the news. How they fire also gets flashed in the news. So a lot of companies, I mean, they need to be mindful of their hiring. Don't go with the herd. If you see an XYZ company hiring, okay, my competitor is hiring, I'll go with the flow. Second is, if when you are seeing the dead end, when you are experiencing challenges where, except for firing, there is no other option you are left with. See what best you can do for the people whom you are asking to go. In fact, one of my clients in Dubai engaged me. This was one of the first of its kind. They said, we want you to do something for people who have been asked to leave.
That's nice.
Yeah, and they openly admitted. They said they were in the travel industry. So the travel industry is the worst hit, and these are our numbers, and we are unfortunately left with no choice. But the if the moment it comes, we bounce back. You will be the first ones. We will ask. I mean, we'll reach out to you that please join us back again. So that open conversation, that openness makes a big difference. And then they did a program for them so that they can manage themselves in trying times. Now coming to the employee side, the employee first thing is need to keep in mind that you have a contract with the organization, contract from the same employment contract. No, I'm not saying contract employee, but
Mm.
now the problem is whether you are on contract or whether you are on a full-time employment position with an organization. The letter which is given to the person who on the date of joining clearly specifies that either ways you can leave us in 30 or 45 or 90 days notice, and vis-a-vis even organization can ask you to leave by giving that much notice. That is clearly laid out. Now it is a problem with the employee that he thinks that I am here to be forever. I am loyalty, everything should be, because if I'm loyal to the organization for 10 years, they should take care of me for life. I mean, that is the
Mm.
misconception which many people carry. And they get obsessed. And the challenge is many a times when employees get into that employment, they get into the comfort zone. They feel now I've got the cushion, I'm indispensable, and I'm going to be here forever. So because of that, many a times they go on the back seat. I remember in the times of Mahindra, there was one program taking place of Stanford. It was, I think, 3-4 days program in Mumbai. They had come here for first time to do something, and it was an expensive affair to be part of that particular program.
Mm.
Now, when I reached out, then one question comes within the organization as others also might ask for this if we send you. No, so I got basically a no that we can send you for this. So then I said, what if I go on my own cause? Then they said that's absolutely fine. I mean, we won't stop you. You can take day off or whatever you want. If you're doing on own, who are we to stop you? Because you're not going. So I realize when it comes to making investment, we feel the moment we join the corporate organization, now we are there, baby. They should invest in us. Vis-a-vis we investing on ourselves. So my 2 cents advice to all the people who get laid off is, if you have made the mistake of not investing in yourself continuously, at times that even at your own cost, then do that and make investments in your learning and development. If organization is not investing or investing limited funds, you go an extra mile to invest in yourself. It's okay if your organization benefits from that. Eventually, even you will get the benefit when time comes for promotion, and time comes whom they
And
want to lay off and whom they don't want to. And you will be better off at not getting laid off. So
true.
multiple learnings came from the layoff which I've experienced, which make you only stronger. Rather than thinking why I get laid off, how can the organization do this for me? Start thinking, what can I do better to avoid this in the future?
What about the midlife crisis? For example, you said that, people become so comfortable in a job that they think that, we are here forever. The company will take care of us forever. And then suddenly they face midlife crisis. Now what? I don't know anything else. I'm totally reliant on the company, and I am doing a monotonous job every day, and I suffer a midlife crisis. How to navigate that situation?
I would say, one of the things which people don't do is they fearlessly express what they are experiencing within, and because of which India has become the BP, diabetes, and heart capital of the world. The pressure increases from inside. because we feel, how will I be perceived? People will judge me. So the ideal way of looking at or addressing the problem is to fearlessly express what you're experiencing within. Express it to the relevant people. I won't say express to anyone and everyone. If you express to a wrong person, he might add fuel to your problem. So express it to people who have been through it, people who have managed and sailed through it successfully, emerged victorious. Reach out to them. And today, with we have platforms like LinkedIn and all, you have access to so many people. One of the things one can do is be a silent listener, listen to what people are contributing, and if it goes well with you, if you think somebody is writing something which is addressing 10% of your problem, reach out to that person to address the rest of the 90% of the problem you're facing.
That's true. So, like you mentioned in the beginning that, you were in a job and then you started a startup. And today, when we see the young students who are graduating, and when we ask them a question whether you want to do a job or whether you want to be an entrepreneur, they will say an entrepreneur. So that shift in mindset. So, what is your advice for all the young students who are coming out of colleges now?
My advice to them is, learn from others' experience. Reach out to people, learn from their experience. The best learnings come from others' mistakes, because that way you will be able to avoid those mistakes. Otherwise, you will, go through those mistakes and waste time also and pay a price also. So my advice would be to, reach out to people, reach out to the ones who are young entrepreneurs, because if they are starting out of college and want to be entrepreneurs, reach out to them. Especially reach out to the ones who have failed. Many a time we reach out to the ones who have succeeded. Failing from the perspective is learning, the mistakes they make, catching hold of the mistakes they have made so that they can avoid those mistakes. And many a time entrepreneurs say, oh, I built a nice product, but I don't know how to sell it. Yeah. So now your half job is done, but if you're not able to sell it, good idea, but then it goes down the drain. Leverage on someone who is good at that, good at sales. Can you leverage on their skills to address that problem?
That's wonderful advice. Leverage help from others. Don't work in silo. It all comes back to don't work in silos. You have one strength, other people have another strength. Build upon that and then grow together. Okay. So my last question would be that you have worked with so many companies and you've given sessions to so many companies, and you've been giving sessions to Tata Group of companies as well. So just in brief about that.
Well, I mean, the group has been one of my biggest inspiration, especially the founders and Sir Jamshedji Tata, it happens to be my icon. And Sir J.R.D. Tata took over, and one of the inspirations which came, actually both, if we see, I mean, they were aligned in terms of their thoughts. Although J.R.D. Tata came much later. But
Mhm.
Jamshedji Tata, I mean, had an amazing vision while founding the Tata Group, which was, in a free enterprise community, is not just any other stakeholder, it's the very essence of business. It's
Mhm.
a very powerful vision. And if more and more people are aligned um, and become more community centric, the business growth becomes a byproduct. And Sir J.R.D. Tata, I mean, when he was in his last days of life, made a very big statement. If I have to take birth again, I would take it in India because there's so much to do. I want to come back again and serve. And if you see, their lifestyles, they were very modest, very humble, and lived a very simple life in their
Mhm.
personal this thing. When J.R.D. Tata, I mean, he didn't own an apartment till the end. He lived out of one room in Taj. And then this kind of dedication, this kind of sacrifice, this kind of service attitude, if it gets replicated in other organizations, a lot will change around us in the environment we live. So I would, my last thing would be, focus on purpose. I think life without purpose is nothing but a circus. So purpose can make a big difference in one's journey, and the best people from whom we can learn to live a life which is centered around purpose is none other than Sir Jamshedji Tata and Sir J.R.D. Tata.
True. And that's a very powerful line. Life without a purpose is just a circus. Yeah, because you're just moving around without any purpose.
It's just juggling with different things and the way you see in in the circus.
That's really powerful. Any last key takeaways?
So takeaway would be that it was very nice to interact with you. Thank you for putting those questions up. And I simply hope that I can be of assistance to others in whichever ways possible through the lessons which I have learned in my journey of life. And my last thing would be that, request individuals to share whatever you have learned with others. So you can uplift them, enrich them with your whatever words of wisdom you have. And then that entire good deed will come back to you in big way in life.
Right. Whatever you give, you will get much more back in return.
So true.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Manish, for your valuable time and your valuable insights. I mean, it was truly wonderful and eye-opening. Some of the examples that you gave were truly eye-opening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on this show. And I simply hope the Renaissance come in, people experience Renaissance in their journey of life.
True. I mean, that is what I hope. Renaissance with myself, Renaissance for others. Rebuilding ourselves, reinventing ourselves,
Yes.
and reimagining whatever we do. Thank you so much. Thank
Most
you.